Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I can hear you too. Thanks.
There's always somebody screaming outside of my house. Like it seems like there's just this is the screaming street. I don't know. Like I'm always perking up going, is there a fight? Is there something going on? It's the screaming place.
Well, ours is sort of the alley that you walk up after you've closed down the bars on Newport.
Tracy, have they started the work on the roundabout?
Yes, they have.
Great.
It's woken me up many mornings.
They put
Yep.
That's great.
Bobo's out of business.
Yeah, I think Bobo's gonna take a break while the work is happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's no parking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's no parking, and that lot that they use is not really their lot anyways. That lot that they use is actually city property, but they seem to have commandeered it like it's their own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. I mean, they have signs and stuff up saying it's city property and has time zones and stuff. But yeah, they've been working on that thing for a couple of weeks now, and they've woken me up with jackhammers and stuff right outside of my door, which is weird because I live about well, I mean, I don't live that far away from the corner, but I live far enough away from the corner
Yeah.
that they wouldn't it seems weird that they would be working this far down, but I think they were jackhammering for other reasons. So I don't know, but yeah, that was enjoyable. That was multiple days of being woken up at 8 in the morning, which is early for me. So yeah. And yeah, it seems like they're doing one corner at a time. Instead of doing it, all the time. They're doing one corner of the roundabout each week or so. Yeah. And they're not removing that weird triangle part that's been there in front of Third Corner for a while. There was kind of a bypass lane
Right,
to
yeah.
go from Bacon to West Point Loma, and they're not removing that. They're leaving it, which I think is
That's
strange.
weird.
So you're going to have a roundabout with a bypass lane, which is not going to go anywhere anyways. So it doesn't really matter. Most of us are just going to go around it. We're not even going to mess with it. So much fun.
Well, at least they're not tearing up Sunset Cliffs or something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Traffic has really.
Well, they did wait until, summer was over, which thank God, because it would have been a nightmare to get through that intersection during the summer. But yeah, the summer moratorium's over, and they're doing so much work on Abbott and Bacon and all of the dead lights that have been just dead for years. They're trying to revamp all of those. So all around me is construction right now. But I'm grateful that they're doing it, right? I mean, it's better than not having them do it.
Okay, now it's mute. Okay, sorry. I unmuted it. Probably want to go louder.
Anthony's here. George is here.
So right now you're not muted, so they can hear you.
Anthony?
Whoever's talking, I can hear you guys.
Yeah, if everybody can self-mute, that would be helpful until we have a need for everybody to speak, please.
I have a question for you. One of the Friends of the Library members registered and got the email back from you. but for some reason it's not letting her in. What should she do instead?
Let me check the registration. It should be automatically received. So let me just double check and
Okay.
see if I can
Her
help her
name's,
out.
her name's Mary Carnes.
Mary.
Yeah.
Carnes. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
thanks.
check it out. Mhm. Looks like Mary Carnes is registered, so she probably just has to go to the, maybe go directly to the link to start her meeting
Okay,
session. If you could ask her to access the link, it won't automatically pop up.
okay. Access the link.
And Laura, I'll try to put it on the chat here for you if you don't have it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks. And I'll just go mute now. Thank you.
Okay, that should be the link right there for you, Laura, if you need it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being on time. I don't believe we have a quorum yet, so we're going to have to wait just a couple more minutes. Thanks.
Andrea, we have 10 people here.
Oh, okay. Who's missing?
Craig said he might not attend. Richard, we are missing. Newman, we're missing. And Nicole.
Okay, I know Newman's on his way, so why don't we just wait until he gets here and then we'll get started so you don't have to make the minutes more complicated by noting when Well, I did give him the 5-minute grace period, but maybe traffic coming back into OB is a little bit rougher than he anticipated. We can go ahead and get started if I have a motion to approve the agenda, or if there are any changes or modifications.
A motion to approve.
The agenda.
The only change I am going to give everyone a heads up on is that Chris Ward will be joining us tonight. So if he's not here by the time we get around to where Rachel would usually speak, I'm going to let him go ahead and have the floor after the city projects, which I don't anticipate taking too much of our time. But you know, if one of our elected officials does want to spend a little time with us, I'm going to make room on the agenda. Okay, thank you, Jane, for your motion to approve. Who is the second? Any objections? Fantastic. Hi, Nicole. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes or any changes to the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, George. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. This is
Thanks,
Kevin.
Kevin. Anyone opposed? Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, well then with that, we will go ahead and move on to community reports. I don't see anyone from the community. Nope. Okay, because Coda did reach out and say he wasn't coming. Obviously, Rachel we're giving the time to Assembly Member Chris Ward, and Cole Reed also reached out and said he wouldn't make it. Updates, I can quickly go through Coda's updates because he's the one who sent me some. But they largely centered around some homelessness issues. The mayor's meetings in Washington last week. So we did end up meeting with the directors of HUD and Housing Service to talk about our ongoing fight with homelessness, or fight against homelessness, and trying to secure some more money for that. And there's also some more housing stability assistance programs. So now that the eviction moratorium is up, please do reach out to CODA to try to gain access for that if you or anyone you know is struggling to pay their rent. I still don't see Eddie, which is disappointing. So I'm going to, I guess, move on to non-agenda public comment. I know the Friends of the Library emailed me to speak, so I'm going to give them the first 2 minutes. And then anyone else who does want to speak during non-agenda public comment, please raise your hand. Hi, Richard. Or you can type your name in the chat box if you cannot find the raise hand function, and I will call on you. So without further ado, I will give the floor to the Friends of the Library.
Can you hear me, Andrea?
Yes,
Okay.
Go for it, Mary.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Cairns, and I'm the current president of the Ocean Beach Friends of the Library and co-chair of the Ocean Beach Friends Expansion Committee. The purpose of speaking to you tonight is to ask you to hold a public in-person meeting on November 3rd of next month for the purpose of providing an open forum for the community to respond to the city on the design of the expanded Ocean Beach Library. Woohoo, finally. The Water's Edge Church has volunteered to host your meeting. They require masks. Their HVAC complies with CDC regulations, bringing in the fresh air, and there's enough space for people to be socially distanced. Consider these facts, as most of you know, the Ocean Beach Library started in 1916 with the existing building in 1928. It's the oldest facility in the San Diego public system. The library has been the planning board's #1 or #2 item on their list of requested capital improvements. The city's Department of Public Works requires a presentation at the Ocean Beach Planning Board. It is the only public forum meeting required in their development process. The city wants to engage the community, and the Ocean Beach community wants to see the current plans for the expansion. A face-to-face presentation to the public and our community partners is the best way to engage and obtain public comments for the city developers. Over $1 million has recently been allocated to the expansion design. A $3 million anonymous donation has been pledged for the library expansion if we can get it done. We do not want to see the city process stall for lack of public input. The Ocean Beach Planning Board has the unique opportunity to spearhead the community input to the design of our new library.
Thank you, Mary. You can just finish your next sentence.
Okay. The last one was just to, again, ask you to hold an in-person meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we did set this up. I at the request of the library, and I also feel that larger meetings are a little bit easier to manage in person, and I anticipate a lot more community input during the library. They also want to have a various amount of plans that they can pass around and look at. If you do feel uncomfortable leading up to the meeting, feel free to email me privately, and if I do get enough concerns, we can try and work something out with the library. But as of right now, I am planning on continuing to pursue a November in-person meeting, just because that's what the city and the library requested. All right, thank you. I see Kevin's hand up. Kevin, I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and I will start it once you start talking.
I don't know if Teddy's tuned in yet. This is sort of something coming from Jen Campbell's office. Next Monday, City Council has on their docket an agenda for the lottery system for vacation rentals and sort of the mechanics of that. There's a staff report which sort of addresses how they think they would do that if a lottery is even required. So if you're interested in that, tune in Monday. I will try and post a link. There was nothing really too interesting, honestly, in the policy that I read, other than giving away the neighborhood to Airbnb. But beyond that, it was nothing too interesting. But I'll post a link if anyone wants to sign into that meeting or make comment. They can do so.
Thank you, Kevin. I do not see anyone else's hand up for oh, Laura, I thought you were clapping. I thought that was a hand up for clap. Okay, Laura, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. I am clapping. Thank you, Andrea, for making the statement that you're going to try to have the open meeting at the water's edge. And they wanted us to tell you they are so happy to host this event because so many organizations in Ocean Beach have been really working hard on this, and the town council and you guys, the OBMA, the Women's Club. So this is just for all of us, and I think the more input we get in public, the better. And thank you, Andrea. I can't say thanks enough. This is going to be great. We're on a roll. Yay! That's it.
Thank you, Laura. Okay. I'll go ahead and give one more call for non-agenda public comment. So I'm trying to turn down my participants list. I do not see any raised hands, but I do see that Assemblymember Ward just joined. Assemblymember, hi, there you are. Hi, I'm gonna go ahead and then turn the floor over to you. And then we'll go into the first agenda item. Thank you so much for coming. Good to see your face.
Good evening. Good to be with you all. It's really been quite a year, and I feel like way too many months since I've had a chance to see you all last. But I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and give you an update directly now that we've concluded sort of part one of our legislative year. We're in 2-year cycles, but this is our interim study recess where I get to do a lot more district work. So I am happy to be in our home community down here. Was very happy to be out there with the town council celebrating the pancake breakfast that we had last Saturday. And of course, Surf Riders event, Paddle for Clean Water on Sunday. It was both meaningful that it was coming back, but also really reminded me and sort of tore at me of what we were enduring with the Huntington Beach oil spill and sort of the daily updates that I'm monitoring around that. But generally, I wanted to let you know about a couple of really big significant budget wins specifically for Ocean Beach. I know that you all probably heard the announcement several months ago alongside Senator Atkins about the work that we did to secure monies for what's generally going to be the design and construction and community engagement for the city to do with you to be able to restore or replace the Ocean Beach Pier. So that's a huge step forward. We also hope that it's going to be catalyze some federal interest to actually provide and lay down the money for the actual construction dollars in some out year down the road. But we've got a lot of homework to do to get there. We were able to secure about $50 million for San Diego's Pure Water project. I think you know that's to provide us with about half of our drinking water supply for the next couple of generations. And cliff erosion research, although we hear about, you know, massive collapses that are up in the Del Mar and Carlsbad and Encinitas areas, we want to establish an early warning system that I know also might be able to help us with understanding any potential cliff failures that we might see along the Sunset Cliffs waterfront. We had additional budget work that I was able to get a few more wins in as well in the September timeframe right before we took a recess. And one of those, as a parent, it frustrated me, especially as we have a warming climate around us, is noting that we don't have a lot of playground shade structures for our kids that are out there, and the days are sometimes getting hotter. So we were able to secure almost another $1 million for the city to start to retrofit some of our parks, including that at Robb Field and Mission Trails and a few other locations south of Interstate 8. Most of our North City communities have those that are newer developed parks, but we definitely want to make sure that our kids have a healthier and a safer environment to be able to play. We have a number of other things that have been moving forward in the legislature, actions on housing and homelessness, climate change, education, criminal justice reform, and other critical policies. Specifically on homelessness, I'm fully aware, not just, of course, in the Ocean Beach community, but almost all the communities that I represent in our assembly district. We have a lot of help coming down here in the next 2 years. So specifically, we are expecting about a $12 billion investment from this year's state fund that's going to be spread out over 2 years. The lion's share of that's going to go towards a variety of different homeless housing solutions, because not everybody needs the same type of housing solution for their specific issues. But that we think statewide is going to target about 42,000 housing connections. And when we think about San Diego, I try to always say, what's this going to do for our region? We're usually about 10% generally whenever we are looking at a statewide allocation or a statewide goal. So 4,200 housing connects across our county would make a meaningful difference over the next 2 years in the number of unsheltered that we have in all of our communities. So we have the largest investment coming for wildfire resilience and particularly home hardening and other needs that we have in both our rural and parks areas, but also here in the urban communities. Also foremost on my mind right now is tackling the drought emergency and really trying to build some long-term water security and resilience systems that will be able to protect our water supply here for the San Diego region. Tied into this, of course, is other efforts to tackle climate around sea level rise. I mentioned earlier our need to be able to reduce issues extending from extreme heat. So a lot in motion. There's a record level of investment because this was a very more fortunate state budget year that we were able to make a lot of these one-time investments to really sort of punch through on the leaps forward that we need to on our biggest priorities. I have some bills that have made it to the governor's desk. Some of them have been signed, and some I'm going to have to pick up again in January and keep working on while I think about my legislative package for next year, which I will also be able to introduce in January, February. I am really proud of a bill that the governor did sign to be able to protect some of our native species that recently Fish and Wildlife has determined have become significant threat due to poaching activities. We've loved our natural resources, but apparently so do many others, and they are having unsustainable levels of poaching of some of our particularly coastal native plant species. And so this is going to help to equalize, I think, the penalty structure. So the old $100 slap on the wrist, which was no disincentive at all to some of these poachers taking our plants by the hundreds or the thousands, will give a little more teeth for Fish and Wildlife to do their job. We also have a bill that was signed that is AB 491, working on reducing discrimination in some of our larger housing buildings, that projects that are coming to life. We are finding occasionally that some developers have been exercising an idea to segregate the affordable housing units that are a part of that project and not provide access to the common amenities like the pool or the community room or a rooftop area. That is unacceptable. When we have mixed income housing, we need to make sure that those kind of community amenities are available to all residents, regardless of whether they're in affordable or market rate housing. So happy to talk about that or other bills. I want to leave most time for questions that you might have, but just grateful to be back with you, albeit still virtually. We're trying to make my team and I want to give a shout out to Rachel Granadino from my office, who is always available for the calls that you and your neighbors might have around constituent services, unemployment, or any other state agency. We're happy to help, and certainly any questions that you have on legislation. With that, Andrea, as chair, I'll leave it to your discretion. I'm happy to take a few questions and just available for as much time as you like.
Yeah, thank you. So please, again, raise your hand if you have a question for Chris Ward. I'm just going to start this off by asking if any of the homelessness dollars that are coming in are earmarked for, outreach specialists and helping, PATH and Regional Task Force for the Homeless. I've just heard recently that the person dedicated to Ocean Beach outreach left, and PATH has had a hard time kind of finding a replacement. And I know Midway, I don't think has a dedicated person either. And these are, two districts that are greatly impacted. So hopefully some of those dollars will also go for outreach as well.
Yes. So they're definitely eligible uses. I mentioned the lion's share of it is really reserved for housing solutions, which we need at the end of the pipeline, but we've got to do that outreach. I was a big proponent on city council. They are eligible under a significant amount of that total state allocation as well. The city and the Regional Task Force on the Homeless would be making those decisions through some RFPs and public engagement that will probably happen in the next couple of months.
Great. And then we also had a request earlier in the year for shade at Ebers Street Park. It's right next to the rec center.
Okay.
So we put that in with
done. So this is on my mind. We will jot down Ebers Street Park, but I'll also work with City Parks and Recs Department. They identified several locations where they also knew that there was a need. We have a ways more to go.
Yeah. And, always trees as well are welcome shade structures in our parks. Does anyone else? I don't see anyone raising their hands in the chat. Is there anyone physically raising their hand that has a question for Assembly Member Ward? Nothing? I mean, I can keep going. I'm also hoping that we can use some of the climate resiliency dollars to address stormwater drainage. Since it floods with the big winter storms, that's like one of the #1 things we see along the coast as well. So hopefully we can work on the off time to kind of get those grants rolling, because I know the money is certainly there.
Yep. So we're working with the city of San Diego. That $15 billion climate package touches a variety of areas that we know that we need to for adapting and mitigating for climate effects.
Okay, great. And as always, if you guys have any more ideas about bills, even if they're not specifically related to Ocean Beach, feel free to reach out to Rachel and Assemblymember Ward, so maybe they can actually get written and passed next session.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Finally, on the community, I know we'll be out and about at some of the upcoming events as well, and I'll look forward to more time then.
Yeah. Okay, guys. And last call. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time, Assemblymember Ward. I saw Aaron Burgess from County Supervisor Fletcher's office sneak in. Aaron, do you have a quick update for us before I need to move along into our first action item? Aaron. Okay. That's fine. Sonia from the city.
So sorry, I couldn't find
Unmute
couldn't
button.
find the tab.
That's fine.
Hey, how's it going? So a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. I can submit a written report to go more into detail, but if you guys have been following, we've been having these very long board meetings. We now have doctors at our board meetings to do some fact checking in terms of misinformation, which was declared a public health crisis at last month's meeting. Some of our guests have made it to Trevor Noah's show, Stephen Colbert, etc. So that's been a big component of some of the work that we're doing. Nathan's also putting together some stuff to kind of fight against the ghost guns that Assemblymember Ward talked about a few months ago. We got a lot of things coming up. One of them is our Dia de los Muertos event where we're going to honor those who have lost their lives to COVID. That's coming up at the end of October. And I know that this doesn't really pertain to Ocean Beach, but this weekend we're having a community coffee in City Heights at the Weingart Library. We're going to be starting kind of like the southern region of our district and then work our way up. So we'll be hitting Ocean Beach probably sometime next year at the beginning to do some coffee. So if you have any ideas about folks you want to, engage in those coffees, have a conversation about Nathan and or Professor Fletcher, as I like to call him, because I was one of his students. It's kind of like his, the core things that he's working on, and he wants to get feedback from community to inform some of the policy. But yeah, we're looking to, there's a moment there where I was just by myself in the community department. So we're trying to up our game there. We've got full staff now, so we're getting back on it, and we're going to be doing a lot more outreach with everybody and try to get Nathan down here to speak with you.
That's great to hear, Aaron. I'm sure we're all looking forward to meeting Nathan Fletcher, and we're happy to see you again.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go to the city now. Sonia, she will be presenting the 2 emergency repair projects that the city, wants to engage in. Sonia.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sonia Olson. I am a planner with the City of San Diego Transportation Department, and we have 2, items on. The first one is a coastal development permit recommendation for the emergency pedestrian walkway void located at the end of the 5100 block of Narragansett, west of the Sea Spray Apartments. Back in late June, July of last year, the city had received complaints that people were occupying or living in a large void at the end of that walkway, and we're concerned about, the safety of the people and also the walkway structure. So city staff followed up and put up barricades, and our engineering staff went out a couple days later and found a void that is about 4 to 5 feet in height and about 20 to 30 feet deep, void underneath the sidewalk, and deemed it that it was structurally compromised and immediate repairs were going to be needed. And so July 6th, crews went out to the walkway, and all work was done with hand tools. They drilled approximately 10 6-inch diameter cores in the sidewalk, ran concrete truck was up at the end of Narragansett and ran the hoses down and filled in the holes with the void with the concrete, and then they had to also put where the previous stairs were washed out due to repeated tidal action, a terraced step structure to support the walkway. And that was it was like a 1 by 3.5 feet by 10 foot footing, structural support. So overall, they put in about 20 cubic yards of concrete slurry through the 6-inch coring, and then followed up with coming back to restoring the walkway. And so the walkway's been restored, and then the terraced pedestrian steps are actually there. So, you know, pedestrians can still access the beach.
Thank you. I've seen is some caution tape around the walkway. Are there still repairs left to be done, or are those in planning?
Since we're operations and maintenance, I'm not sure why there is. Our repairs are completed, so that could be related to something else, some other project. I'm not sure.
Okay. Do I have any board questions or public questions about the project?
I have a question. Is this about the stairs that lead down to the tide pools from Narragansett?
No, it's it's the walkway that goes around the Sea Spray Apartments. That's just west of the Sea Spray Apartments. And then there's there's like 3 or 4 little terraced structured steps for people.
So there used to be a gate there at those steps because they got washed out. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Virginia. I don't think you unmuted yourself, Virginia. Although I thought I saw you press it.
I wonder if you could tell us, are the repairs holding up okay?
Yes, they're supposed to be long-term reinforced, good structural repairs until, you know, something much further down the road could be, you know, implemented and placed.
Good, thank you.
Kevin?
Andrea kind of hit on my question, but I was going to ask also about long-term actual putting stairs in there, which was supposed to happen. Do you know who at the city we can reach out to for that? Because they were supposed to put stairs there. The stuff that's there now, I would definitely not call it access. I mean, maybe for an able-bodied adult, but children or, you know, anyone older, there's no way they're going to get down there. In fact, the city had that gate still locked after the repair was done for quite a while until I think vandals removed it. So,
Yeah, the terrace, those steps were to structurally support the walkway. It would be up to Park and Rec, who would be responsible for long-term stairs. Yeah. So it'd be the Park and Rec department.
Okay, thanks for that information, Sonia. Do I have any other questions? Or I believe you're looking for a motion to approve the emergency permit, correct?
Yes, the the coastal development permit.
Okay. Do I have such a motion? Anthony? And
I move to approve the permit, yes.
thank you. And I see Jane had a second. Okay, Tracy, will you just call the roll for the record?
Melanie,
Yes.
Chris, Anthony,
Yes.
Will, come on.
I vote yes. Jane,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Kevin.
yes.
Oh, I see his thumbs up. Richard,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Nicole. Where'd you go?
Not hear me?
Nicole?
Yeah.
Yes,
You know.
I can.
Yes.
Okay. Virginia,
Yes.
thank you.
Awesome. Okay, let's roll into the next project, Sonia.
Okay, so the next one is for a site development permit recommendation for the Bermuda Avenue emergency seawall and slope void repairs located at the end of the 4800 block of Bermuda Avenue. the city staff had received complaints about a large void at the top of the slope at the end of Bermuda Avenue back in March of this year. And so city staff went out to take a look at it, and the engineering staff determined that the seawall is being compromised by the large void and that emergency repairs were going to be needed. And so crews, we started in March, and they pretty much put boards down below seawall just to make sure that nothing seeped out. And they pumped in concrete, about 68.5 cubic yards of concrete, and then 35 cubic yards of sand slurry into about a 17 by 19 by 11 void to provide that additional structural support to the existing seawall. And it took about, I guess, a few days to do. And then they followed up with restoring the site back to its original condition, that no impacts to any resources occurred.
Oh, thank you. Same kind of questions as last time. Are these a long-term solution, or will it be further reinforced upon the building of the stairs that hopefully will start?
Yes, currently we are working on, we'll probably have to hand this off to our engineering capital projects department to come up with a more long-term, probably a new seawall. And so we don't have the resources and transportation to do all the necessary studies, but the Coastal Commission, we're working with them right now on the long-term solutions and what would be the best option.
Okay, wonderful. That's a very valued community beach, so we appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions about the Bermuda Stairs project? But this isn't the stairs project, sorry, the void at the Bermuda Seawall project. Sorry.
Well,
I know how.
I have a question. If this construction will affect the start date of the stairs at all? It sounds like it's already occurred to some extent, but do you have any information, Sonia, on when the stairs are slated to begin construction?
Yes, we worked with Park and Rec Department while we were doing the emergency repairs, just to make sure that our work would not affect the installation of the stairs. And if all goes well, if they're going to be going out to bid in December, January, and hopefully right now it's kind of slated to start stairs construction around February, if all goes well.
All right, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes,
Thank you.
it'd be nice to have those stairs.
Do you have any other questions about the Bermuda Void project? Okay, I think Sonia, you're seeking a similar motion.
Correct.
Awesome. Do I have, oh, go for it, Kevin.
Kind of a general question on these emergency repairs. Sonia, have you had experience where a permit was rejected after the fact on an emergency repair?
Not yet. We've been questioned by the Army Corps on one project that they didn't agree that it was an emergency, but then we were able to provide them additional information. But I haven't had any experiences yet.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know how that would work. I mean, are you gonna go undo the work? I mean, anyways, I was curious more for the previous item than this one, but anyways, I would move that the board recommend approval of the coastal permit for the Bermuda Avenue seawall repair.
Great. And I see Newman holding up a 2. I see George holding up a 2 first, but I saw Newman's 2 first. So I will give Newman the second, and then we will call the vote again. Thank you. And thank you, Sonia, for coming out. And also, please thank your department for quickly identifying those voids and filling them.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Melanie.
Yes.
Chris. Anthony.
Yes.
I vote yes. Jane. Jane. Tom.
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Craig is absent. Richard?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Newman?
I heard
Nicole? Nicole?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Virginia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Again, thank you, Sonia. And please let me know what documentation I need to provide for you. And I'd be happy to send that over tomorrow. Okay, moving on to action item number 3. I have 4677 Brighton Ave. Do I have the project applicants available and ready to present?
Yep, we are here. I'm here. I'm the applicant and the owner is here as well.
Okay, awesome. You should see a screen share button at the bottom if you have your plans ready and whatnot. Feel free to start sharing your screen, and I will give you 10 minutes to present if that sounds like enough, and then I'll open it up to questions.
Sounds good. Yeah, that should be more than enough. Hopefully it'll only take a minute or two.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah. Give me a second to get this screen share going here. Okay, are you guys able to see these plans?
Looks like your screen share is working.
Yeah. So the scope of this project is basically there's an existing storage building in this diagonally crosshatched box that was previously permitted as a storage building.
They have not made a recommendation on it.
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think Kevin was talking. Kevin, yeah, after they're
No.
done, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so this existing storage building is being proposed to be converted to an ADU. I can go down to the floor plan here. It's actually all built already, so it's an existing as-built structure, but it just wasn't permitted. The interior improvements weren't permitted, so basically just proposing that we get this kitchen and bathroom permitted so it can be an ADU. The owner's going to have a long-term tenant in there, and there's a parking spot already out back, so shouldn't be any street parking impact. These are the elevation views of short building, 11.5 feet tall, attached to the existing garage for the main house. I think that's really about it. I guess I can let anyone ask any questions if they have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Kevin, I'm gonna give you the phone to kind of explain where the PRC was on this project, or yes, they weren't.
I tried to, but maybe it cut out. You're asking about the PRC?
Well, yeah, just the history of the project and why we're kind of seeing it now.
Hey, Kevin, we can't hear you at all. You've muted yourself.
Okay. Well, Kevin requested that this project kind of circumvent the PRC, or not circumvent, but it would have just unnecessarily delayed their project another 2 months when it's already built and they're really just waiting for proper permitting. And you know how sometimes these things can then incur costs onto the owner if someone were to report it with someone living in there before it being permitted. So we didn't want to be the cause of those unnecessary delays. I'm pretty sure that is the gist of it, especially since, you know, it's converting an existing structure. There's no construction going on and it does have a parking spot. We anticipated that there wouldn't be too much pushback from the board, but of course I'll leave it up to anyone to prove me wrong if they want to. So does anyone have any questions for the applicant or any comments? Will, would you mind just stop sharing your screen so I can just see everyone a little bit better?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So do I have any questions or comments? Concerns? Motions?
Yeah, this is George. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, George. I see Newman has a second. Oh, hold up 2 fingers next time, Richard. Just kidding. Okay, I have Newman as the second. Tracy, if you want to call roll. I will let Kevin, if you can hear me. Sorry, 1 second. Kevin, if you can hear me, if your audio cut out, please just put your vote in the chat for the record.
I'm going to start at the bottom now. Virginia. I can't hear you. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yes.
This is Kevin.
I
finally called
thank you.
back.
Nicole.
Thumbs up from Kevin.
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Newman. Yes.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
I got Kevin's vote already. Jane.
Yes.
I vote yes. Anthony.
Yes.
Chris.
I'm going to vote yes. I'm deferring to the chair of the PRC a little bit and his expertise on the subject. I don't see anything really, too what's the word I'm looking for?
Controversial.
Controversial. Thank you, Tracy. And I did see the notes that Kevin sent out earlier today, and so I'm just trying to bring myself up to speed. I'm voting yes, but haven't had a lot of time to review it. But again, deferring to the expertise of our chair.
Melanie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. What was the vote count? Do we have 12 people here today? Just
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13. Woohoo. Okay, cool. Will, I will go ahead and fill out the paperwork necessary for you, and I will send it to your planner tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, best of luck.
Thanks.
Okay,
Have a good one.
wonderful. You too. So moving right along to action item 4. This is a revisiting of the project we saw. I have it at our August meeting. We sent it back down to transportation to review the loopholes and the rest of the code. The transportation department, the transportation subcommittee did review it, and we agreed that being able to use a pre-existing bicycle rack that just happens to be outside your business does kind of defeat the purpose, and also doesn't necessarily lend itself to more people riding bikes. I think we can all agree that bike theft is more than a little problem in Ocean Beach. And if we want people to start riding their bikes more, we do have to provide more secure facilities. So the motion of the Transportation Committee was to allow this parking replacement to continue. However, the bike parking had to be a secure bike storage facility, and they could not simply use a pre-existing bike rack that existed, the code said, within 200 feet of their building. So the code up and to also include Ocean Beach in this, because the code does prohibit any Ocean Beach business from taking advantage of it, which is another reason we wanted to support it. As you may know, there is no more parking left in Ocean Beach. There's no place to build parking. There's no place to rent parking lots. So any business that's seeking to expand, any new business that wants to come in, kind of has their hands tied with how much they can do. And we want to keep our businesses thriving, and we don't want to see any more businesses fail because the city is putting onerous parking restrictions on them. Was the thinking of the Transportation Committee. So hopefully, if this does go through, we would like to put it in the next code update cycle. Okay. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? I'll open it up to board comments first, and then I will go to the public comments, and then hopefully we'll get a motion eventually. Do I have anyone who seeks to speak? You raise your hand in the chat. Okay, Kevin, go for it.
Sorry, I'm on just my phone because the WebEx is not working. But so I just want to clarify that this would allow any eating or drinking establishment in any commercial zone to not provide any parking whatsoever if they provide a certain number of bike spots secure on the property of some sort, anywhere on the property. So that's what we are looking at here today, is removing effectively all requirements of parking for all eating and drinking establishments. So I just want to make that clear. And I think it's totally crazy.
Thanks, Nicole. I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in about your earlier point, Andrea, that I thought was really good, is that there is no more parking available in Ocean Beach. And so for businesses like my business that are trying to expand their outdoor dining capabilities, there's no way for us to do that currently. And so I proposed this bike in lieu of parking, in lieu of vehicle parking back in June of last year, in order to provide a safer environment for people to get to Ocean Beach on bicycles. I myself had 4 bicycles stolen in Ocean Beach over the years, to the point where I put my foot down and said, I'm not buying another bicycle, just to have it get stolen. It's a huge problem in Ocean Beach. And so what we had proposed for South Beach was to build a secure bicycle parking facility in our courtyard that would be under video surveillance. However, I think that the issue goes deeper than bicycle parking and really just makes us take a look at vehicle parking regulations in general. I don't think it's fair that restaurants should be taxed with providing, parking for the public where retail places are not. And I don't see the problem in supporting local businesses. It is good for businesses, but why is that a problem? I'd like to hear the board's thoughts a little more on this issue.
Virginia, I see your hand.
Yeah, I agree, Nicole. It's not fair if a restaurant is required to provide the parking and other types of businesses aren't, but I don't think that this is the way to remedy that inequity. It looks like part of it, maybe I'm paranoid, but it looks like part of a trend to me that the city's setting out to eliminate parking, public parking, that where they are not requiring it for new development. And this proposal, for example, and it's removing parking along the streets to put in bike lanes when there are ways to have bike lanes and parking, as we've seen on West Point Loma. So it's not necessary to eliminate all of that parking. And it just seems, it just seems unwise to do it. And they are expecting everyone to be able to hop onto a bicycle and drive to or ride to whatever area they feel like shopping or eating. That's not practical. People, not everyone's able to ride a bicycle, and as you said, they get stolen. And the other option for someone, if they can't go somewhere and park their car, is to take public transit. But judging by Google Maps, there are just places where, first of all, the transit won't take you. And secondly, they might take you, but it could take 9 hours, or you may have to start the previous afternoon to get there. So we're not in a position to eliminate parking for individual vehicles at this point, not until we have transit. So
Can
yeah.
I'm sorry.
done.
I just would like to make another point. Currently, my business, which as you know is right next to a public parking lot, is required to have 36 parking spaces in order to operate, which seems excessive to me, seeing as there are multiple businesses on our same block that operate with a similar footprint with no parking at all. So for 36 spaces, we have contracted with Union Bank to rent their parking lot, which, as you know, is sort of ridiculous because it's a block away. But that's the cost of doing business, I suppose, with the city. However, that creates a huge financial impact on our small businesses because in order to even open our doors, we need to have that parking, which costs, $72,000 a year for a business. And I don't think that that is right. I think that something needs to be addressed, that we're not hurting our small businesses in order to just, continue on living in such a way that is, environmentally not a great way to live. If you live 5 blocks away from Newport Avenue, why are you getting in your car to come to the beach, to Newport? I'm getting a little bit off track here, but my point is that the parking regulations are hurting local businesses.
Thank you, Nicole. Anthony, I saw your hand up. Mandy, I see your hand up next.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I have a question. I'm sorry, it's too bad that Craig isn't here today. Both he and I represent the central Newport corridor. And I've yet to hear, with the exception of Nicole, and thank you for bringing this up, I have yet to hear from any from the merchants on their take of this. And I think it would be not only appropriate, but necessary for us to have them in here, a representative from the OBMA, and their job, I would task them first to survey their members and come up with a unified voice and come back to the OB planning board and let us know what their take on this is. And that would be not only just the retail business, the restaurants and bars that are required for parking, but all the businesses there. I think that they are, from my understanding, they're supposed to be a unified voice as a union in a sense. And it's more than appropriate. And I haven't heard from them yet. I'm kind of disappointed because I haven't really seen them too many times in the planning board. This is critical. And so I feel that I'm not comfortable making any kind of recommendation until we hear from those stakeholders first.
Mandy, yeah.
Tracy can go ahead. You wanted to have board members go first. If she can go first, I'll go after her.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, go. For it.
Yeah. So the writing's on the wall here. And I know that we can kick and scream all we want, but the city is phasing out parking, like Virginia said. There is a call to action to remove parking and to encourage people to walk, bike, or take transit throughout the city. And we unfortunately live in a highly impacted area where people live in a one-bedroom place and have 2 or 3 vehicles and are looking for places to park those vehicles, so they occupy space. So, I always keep thinking back to what Nicole Burgess said at some point during a transportation meeting, is she said that we don't have a parking problem, we have a free parking problem. So, it's like if we didn't have so many people living here and not having garages and not utilizing their garages and people parking on the streets, then maybe it wouldn't feel so crazy and impacted. But, obviously we can't control what people do with their private property if they want to turn their garage into storage and park on the streets, right? But I just think that we are rolling a boulder up a hill right now. Like, we can kick and scream all we want and say that, parking is sacrosanct and we can't get rid of it. And if we get rid of it, people are going to freak out. But I honestly, I don't have faith that we're going to have any real impact or say on that. And then to Nicole's point, this is where I feel like the businesses should be able to accommodate their customers in the way that they want to accommodate their customers. For residents of the neighborhood to say, we don't want parking to go away because we don't want parking to go away, it's kind of not taking the businesses into account. And this kind of goes back to what Anthony was saying, but also Nicole. We should be allowing our businesses to supply the parking that their customers need, not controlling the businesses and telling them that they need to have X, Y, or Z amount of parking. It's kind of up to the businesses to say, you know what, if my clients can't come here because there's no parking, then maybe I should supply or acquire some additional parking for them in some way. It's kind of this, let the businesses make the call. And if they can't accommodate their customers, then they're going to go out of business, right? Because that's just how it is. People won't go if they aren't feeling comfortable going to the business. So, it's kind of my independent, let the businesses decide mentality here. So, as I don't want to take parking away from people, I also think that this is a really great opportunity for us to encourage something other than getting in your car and driving a mile to go to a restaurant. The thing that we're voting on is not eliminating all parking. It's eliminating it in a 2-to-1 kind of fashion. So it's not like Nicole is going to get rid of every single one of her parking spaces, because obviously she has clients and customers that are going to need those spaces. But what she's trying to do here is accommodate another aspect of her clientele who may live in OB and only wants to bicycle down the street. And I think that that's a fair assessment for a business to make for themselves. So that's just kind of my general opinion on what's going on. I know I know a lot of people are probably like, rah, but that's my opinion.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
And then before, because I see Chris's hand up. I'm gonna let you talk. Go ahead for Chris. Thank you, Mandy. And I see DK's hand for being patient.
So I think I have 3 points, but just to clarify first, is this affecting commercial parking only, or is this, I mean, is this residential parking as well, or is it just commercial?
Commercial parking only.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with it. I think if a residential were included, I'd get on my soapbox and talk about how we have such antiquated requirements in our code for residential parking and garage and driveway parking, because I do think the writing is on the wall, whether we like it or not. I mean, there is definitely a push towards mobility that doesn't include the automobile. But where I struggle with it is I think about Newport Avenue. And one of the selling points for it, specifically for Newport Avenue, is if you think about other coastal cities, whether it's Hermosa Beach or Newport or wherever, I mean, to have a boulevard that you can drive down and park and easily access these businesses, I think is a selling point for OB, even with its challenges and limitations. And I know recently we had the discussion about these, outdoor dining plazas and how they're sort of impacting sidewalk space and maybe even parking space as well. And I supported that. I think I support maintaining parking on Newport and other commercial districts, but the caveat for me is I agree with Nicole. I think much like residential, the businesses are being burdened with a little bit too much of a requirement to provide parking. I don't think it's reasonable to ask for 36 parking spots in this day and age for a business like the one Nicole owns. So I don't know how much ability we have to affect that. I'm looking at the motion in front of us. My final question is, it talks about replacing bike racks with bike facilities. And so can someone explain what that means?
Sure, and I would just like to reiterate, this would not remove any of the street or public parking. All restaurants are required to have their own off-street parking, and so that is what it would be replacing. So we wouldn't see any of the spots in the pier parking lot or any of the spots along Newport be converted into secure bike storage facilities. So they have some type, it would be some type of bike locker or just off-street, more secure than a chain to your bike rack in the front. There's a couple, I don't know if any of you have been to Mavericks in Pacific Beach, but they have an on-site secure like valet for bikes. So it wouldn't be at that level, but it would be something similar.
Got it. And thanks for that leading note, Andre. That helps me understand where I think I land with this.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
sorry for leaving it out. Sometimes I'm so in my head, I'm like, everything I'm saying makes sense.
All good. All good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Chris. Okay, Mandy, I'm gonna hop over to you, and then DK, I see your hand.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am also a subcommittee member on this, on the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. And so during the discussion, there's several factors that have to go with what Nicole is requesting in this amendment. She's wanting to expand her business, similar to what THC and OB Brewery has done. The city is asking for her to find additional parking spots. What we're trying to do is, because, the conversation is, where are we going to find those parking spots in OB? That's a very realistic question to ask, especially when, like Virginia and Andrea and Tracy have all said, the city is removing the requirement for parking with developers and for public parking. And so the thought is they're putting an unrealistic burden on her to provide parking while she's trying to expand her business in the middle of a pandemic. We all know about Ocean Beach kind of being the mecca for bike theft. We've seen bikes hacked apart right on the bike rack. And the concern is that we're going to have businesses come out and put a bike rack out in front of the business and then take away their parking requirement or remove parking in the name of, I've provided a bike rack. The amendment that we're proposing is that if they were to remove the parking, that it would have to be secured bike facilities that they would have to provide on site in their property. And so she's not removing any parking. She has to find parking. And her thought is, in her courtyard in the building, she's offered to the city to have a secured bike area for people who come down to OB, whether it's her client. She's also expressed concern from Raglan with their clientele not finding parking, or as we've heard, it will eventually become a hindrance, because I'll tell you, in the summer, I don't go down to some of these restaurants because you don't want to deal with the hassle or with the waiter trying to find parking. And so the thought is that we could find a remedy in the form of secured bike parking facilities on site, so that it would not allow for these businesses to just throw a bike rack out in front of their property and then, remove the recommended parking requirements. And so that's what all I have to say is, again, I feel like this remedy would be appropriate and something that the board should advocate for. It would help a small business. The state has been talking about staycations, supporting local, supporting restaurants. This would directly help improve her business. It would help encourage people to get out of their cars and to bike down in the community and to enjoy the businesses down there and provide an environmentally sound way for them to enjoy the businesses down there while helping the city, promote their climate action goals and trying to get people out of their cars. And so this has come before your board last month. I know that it was sent back to committee to discuss. I appreciate Anthony wanting to get concurrence with the OBMA, but I feel like it's just another obstacle into getting what needs to happen done here. And I feel like, in just my opinion, that your board needs to advocate for this amendment to the code, because it would provide safe and secure parking, and it would encourage bikers and people who walk through the community to have a place to park their bikes without having to worry about if their bike is going to be there when they get done with their dinner or done shopping. And I feel like this is an unnecessary burden that the city is placing on Nicole, when I'd like to know what THC, what was their requirement? What was OB Brewery's requirement? Do you know? No, there was no requirement. That's interesting. I'd like to have that conversation as well. Why are they not being held accountable to that standard as well? So, the city, picks and chooses who the winners and losers are. I really feel like this is something that your board needs to advocate for, and I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. DK?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. I also am a member of the Transportation Subcommittee. So when we discussed this a week or two ago, whenever we met, one of my big takeaways from that conversation, there are a few different things. One, I think it was Chris who mentioned that this mechanism, this action that we're discussing tonight, only pertains to commercial zones, and that is correct. That was my understanding. And two, also this code update has been approved by City Council already. And so we're not necessarily having a philosophical conversation about whether or not this is, something that should happen or shouldn't happen. This is an optional program that businesses like Nicole's and others in the area are allowed to take advantage of if and only if they, as a business, decide that it's in their best interest. And so I think it might have been Mandy's point, but in the middle of a pandemic, at this time more than any other, if there's one small thing we can do, it's give a business another tool in the toolbox to continue being sustainable and successful as a business. This is not, like I said, something about removing parking actively. This is literally just in the event of an expansion or a redo or something like that, that there's an option for bike parking to be substituted instead of vehicular sort of traditional car parking. And so I believe the motion came out of the Transportation Subcommittee that you see in front of you today, based on that conversation that we had. One, like I said, that this is an optional program that businesses can, on a case-by-case, individual basis, opt into, that only pertains to commercial zones. And so because of those reasons, it was something that we were more than comfortable supporting in the Transportation Subcommittee. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to point out again, as DK said, this will be implemented in a lot of commercial zones, but not our commercial zones. So again, it's hindering our specific business corridor when other businesses in San Diego now are not facing the same hurdles to expand their business vis-a-vis parking. Nicole, I saw your hand up, and then Kevin, I saw your hand up as well.
Thanks, Andrea. And thank you everyone for your, comments as well. Giving me a lot to think about. But one question that I have is that the city recently enacted an emergency measure due to COVID that has effectively suspended parking requirements for businesses since the outbreak of the pandemic. In the hopes that businesses with parking lots adjacent to them would then take those required parking spaces and convert them into outdoor dining spaces, which has happened in a number of places. And so what I'm wondering is when and if this emergency measure is lifted and the city once again requires businesses to provide X amount of parking, what is going to occur with those businesses who have placed outdoor dining structures on their required parking? Are they then going to be told to tear it all out? I mean, what's the end game for those businesses, and how can you lift the requirement for parking on some businesses and not on others? I think the city is going to be in sort of a mess here. Just one more thing to think about, I suppose.
Thank you, Nicole. Kevin?
So I wanted to clear up a few things. Residences are required to provide off-street parking. Businesses, retail, offices are required to provide off-street parking at 2 spots per 1,000 square feet. Eating and drinking establishments are required to provide off-street parking at 4 spots per 1,000 square feet. Now, obviously, this is for new development, new permits. Everyone is required to provide parking. If businesses don't provide parking, the residents will, on their own streets, at their cost of not having any more access that they already don't have, they'll just have to park even further away to accommodate the businesses and the business employees. I think it's a little disingenuous to say that this is an optional program. You're literally removing the minimum parking requirement. You're removing it. The businesses can add 100 spots if they want. That's always been the case. They can add bike racks and secure parking if they want now. They already can do that. And Tracy and some others talked about, well, the city is getting away from parking and this is pushing a boulder uphill. That's horse shit. We are pushing a boulder downhill here. This is the OB Planning Board proposing to go above and beyond anything anyone has ever proposed to remove even more parking for all eating and dining establishments in every part of the city, when even the retail spaces will still be required to provide it. So this isn't resisting some change from the city. This is the OB Planning Board actively going from 4 spots to 0 spots for that particular use. And there's something in between that, I would think. You can remove the overlay of the coastal requirement that requires more for eating and dining on the coast. You could do something like that. There's something in between. Going from all to nothing, I think that's a bit ridiculous now. Businesses have the ability to provide for what they think they need. If they think they need bike parking, they can provide that now. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it because they want to maximize their square footage and make everyone else deal with the problems of the parking. We have our own problems with parking that we have to deal with. So it's not a zero-sum game that you can just get rid of this. It impacts other people. I just think this is a total 180 from previous efforts the planning board has made to preserve parking, to provide more visitor parking in the beach lots, permits, things like that, to actually allow people to function and live in this community that they're forced to commute out of to afford to live here. And then here we're going to just do a giveaway to all the eating and drinking establishments that we already have way too many of and way too many alcohol licenses for in our district. It's oversaturated, and now the retail places can't even afford to compete on the rental market with these other places that are just allowed a free for all to take over our sidewalks now and their parking lots. And now the city's making that permanent, and that's not good enough. We have to give away even more. There's a lot of talk about how it benefits Nicole, and it sounds maybe like she should recuse herself from this particular vote. That's all I have. I'm not going to make any friends with her tonight on that, but that's my thoughts on this. I think it's just, if we want to propose something, we can do that. But this going from the current requirement down to 0, I think that's just way too extreme.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to make a few comments now. So the way I see this is the evening of the playing field. As we've previously discussed, it's already going into commercial zones across the city, but not our commercial zones. So we're further handicapping our development of Newport and our small businesses. I would also like to further point out, as some people have, that THC doesn't have any off-street parking. The Joint doesn't have any off-street parking. Wonderland doesn't have any off-street parking. Blue Water doesn't have any off-street parking. And OB Surf Lodge doesn't have any off-street parking. So there are many businesses who are already in violation, and the city seems to look the other way. And it's just very hypocritical to me that they are able and willing to give out this ability to, meet our climate action goals, enhance our bikeability and our walkability by providing secure bike facilities and other amenities that could increase that in our neighborhoods. While, they're picking some, again, restaurants to completely ignore the fact, and then they're picking some restaurants to completely handicap and cripple. I don't like that. I want everyone to be treated equally, and I want our downtown district to thrive so that more businesses aren't pushed out and we see a chain storification of Newport Avenue because our local businesses can't expand and and are wasting their money on these parking agreements that the city has tied their hands to. I like that our neighborhood is walkable, and even when I was living all the way up on the hill of Orchard, I would make it a point to always walk down when I was going to visit Newport. So, if from this aspect and from taking, it is land use, and part of that is having a thriving business district. And I would like to continue to see our local businesses and our local business owners thrive instead of a few who have figured out how to game the system thrive and the rest fall by the wayside. Do we have any final discussions or motions? Did I freeze? Did everyone?
Andrea, I think I will abstain from this vote.
Can I move to?
Thank you, Nicole.
Actually, I withdraw. I'll let somebody else go ahead.
Maybe I could get a jump on this. I'm being stubborn because I do want, I clearly think that all the stakeholders that would be impacted by this aren't being heard. And again, I have a responsibility to the, sorry, somebody's cooking with pepper in here. I'm going to choke. I have a responsibility to the constituent of Newport. And I'd like to hear from them. So I move, I hate to delay this again, and Nicole's going to hate me for this, but I move that we maybe have a discussion with or invite the OBMA, a representative from the OBMA overall to give us their impact on this and what they would like to see for their businesses to thrive. Because I can imagine that there, as many are many diverse opinions of this subject at OBMA and the others that live and reside around that area than there are here. So I'll shut up now because I can't breathe.
Thank you, Anthony. Kevin seconded. So Tracy, you can go ahead and call the roll.
Restate the motion for me, please.
Sure. I move that we, before we make a recommendation to or for or against this, that we invite representatives of the OBMA in here to provide us with their impact statement on this.
This is George. I second.
Kevin already seconded it.
We were just repeating it so everyone knows. Thank you. Tracy, if you could please.
Melanie.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Anthony.
Yes.
I'm voting no. Jane. Tom.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Craig's not here. Richard. Richard, are you thinking?
Your sound is breaking in and out. I'm not hearing you. So Anthony, I agree with what you're saying, but you're not going to get the businesses to pitch in on this because they're not all being treated equally.
Well, he's asking for input. Are you yes or no on?
Go ahead and put me in as a yes.
George.
Yes.
Andrea.
No.
Newman.
Yes.
Nicole has abstained. Virginia.
As much as I dislike the prospect of going over this again, I vote yes.
Okie dokie. I mean, obviously it passed so Andrea, I guess we'll have to invite OBMA.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to put in a formal request to Denny, just in kind of off the hand conversations. It's the same as most things are. You know, some people are for it, some people are against it, but I can request to see if she wants to do a formal survey.
And I think it wasn't quite clear in some of the discussion, but I would be clear to OBMA that the motion from the subcommittee was specific to eating and drinking establishments. It wasn't all commercial establishments.
Okay, let's move on to the final discussion item. So I think a lot of us know about the recent state laws that have been passed surrounding ADUs. There is a proposal on the table from one of our council members to go above and beyond what the state laws are requiring for cities to permit in ADUs. That is coming before the council, I would think, shortly. So there are, some kind of presentations going around. I, at the request of Kevin, put this on the agenda tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead and give him the floor and he can explain the ADU laws that are being proposed by City Councilor Sean Aleo. Kevin.
Sorry, what are you asking me?
I was tossing the floor over to you. This was your request to put on the agenda, so I wanted, I was
Okay.
hoping
I thought
you
maybe you
would
had.
go over the ADUs.
So let me highlight kind of the summary of this item. It's not a super duper pressing item, but last year the city passed, the state actually passed new ADU laws that require the cities to allow more ADUs, because some cities weren't really doing much on that front. So the state passed some new laws, kind of like the vendor laws. They basically said, you have to comply with this. You can do whatever you want as long as it meets these minimum rules. So San Diego rewrote their ADU rules. And those rules include now allowing multiple ADUs on a multifamily lot, whereas before, for example, in OB, if you have a duplex lot, you can only put one on that lot. So the state law said you have to allow at least two on that. And the state law said you have to allow it with, zero setbacks. The city already did that before. And they had other requirements. They said you can't require any parking at all, even if it replaces a garage, so that was a new one for the city. So the state drove down some of these rules. Now the city last year went above and beyond that, and the biggest one that has drawn some scrutiny is they passed a law saying that you can add unlimited ADUs if they are affordable to 110% of the area median income, which is like 80 to 95,000, depending on your family size. So the city went beyond the state requirements, and some people will say they went well beyond the state requirements and just sort of allowed, mini apartment complexes within single family and, low density multifamily zones that are within TPAs. That's where the unlimited bonus ADU plays in. And there were some other ones, but that was really the biggest point. It also allows you to go 800 square feet above the FAR. So those were already passed by the city last year. The city has or is submitting that to the Coastal Commission and to await certification, which is probable but not guaranteed. And that would then make it apply within places like Ocean Beach. So Ocean Beach is still on the old rule book of you can only build one ADU. And if you have a complex with, say, 4 units or 10 units or whatever, you can't build any on those. So they would go from that to allowing unlimited if they're affordable to 110%. That's the gist of it. And so there's one group that's gotten some attention sort of after the law was already passed to push back on it. And the council member, Andrea mentioned, has sort of embraced a few of those ideas to push back a little bit on it, but not most of them. And so that's Sean Elo Rivera, and he is sort of in the southeastern part of San Diego, District 9. I think it goes to the east side of the 15 or 805, like Talmadge, Kensington area. And then some communities just west of there also were objecting to this because they didn't want, big condo complexes, houses getting knocked down to put, condo complexes with unlimited density. So what the council member had proposed was to require that the units be affordable to 80% AMI, which isn't a lot less, but it would push down the rent levels for those units to make them a little bit more affordable. I think that's somewhere around like 75, 80,000 a year family income to afford that unit. And he had some other requirements on, I think I sent them out by email, but I don't recall all off the top of my head. That was the biggest one. That it was sort of too much too much of a giveaway. Now, keep in mind, this law already passed. The city council already passed it. It's already in effect now for all of San Diego except the coastal zone. So the board tonight, and maybe it's more of an informational item, I don't know, but it's something that will affect OB, and any rollbacks or pushback of it is something that would also be relevant to OB. So I think it's something that the board should weigh in on in some fashion. Maybe not tonight, but it is an opportunity to sort of take a second look at these ADU laws that do definitely exceed the state law's requirements. So yeah, really the question is, do we want to allow, unlimited density on low density lots and with no parking and no developer fees? One of the other things the council member proposed was on some of the larger ADUs that they require developer fees to be paid if it's a like a LLC or a corporation owns the property, and only give that discount to an owner occupied builder. So I see the board could potentially support the council members' ideas, or some of them, or could push back on some of the other parts of the city's ADU proposal that they think maybe the Coastal Commission should not approve due to our, whatever unique needs on the coast, or maybe punt this for a later discussion. But it's definitely an item that could have a major impact on our neighborhoods here.
All right. Do you have a specific ask or idea, Kevin? As you were the one to request this on the agenda. I know CPC did vote on this about a week ago-ish. We voted to hold all ADU laws at the state level until further review can be done. So that was the CPC's stance on it.
That's certainly a good start. Yeah, I think one of the neighborhood groups was asking for that too, like a moratorium on implementing this, even though it's already implemented. But I think the board should definitely support that idea, as well as, maybe lower income requirements. I mean, 110% AMI is practically a market rate unit, and they claim that there's not really a need for more market rate units. We need more affordable units. So why are we giving incentives for, building market rate units? So that's something the board could do tonight, I think. I just really wanted to get this on everyone's radar and whoever else is attending. If nothing else, to get involved in the larger city discussion on this.
Okay. I see Anthony's hand up, and I see Chris's hand up, and Mandy, I see your hand up, but I don't know if that was left over from the parking discussion. But I will go to Anthony, and then I'll give the floor to Chris. Anthony.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin, for bringing this up and bringing it back to light and reminding us of this. I think I can imagine what you're looking for is, I think that what we should do would be appropriate for this board is to have a unified voice in this when it does come to the point where we have to give some kind of a recommendation, and specifically where it pertains to the coastal zone here. So that's what I think you're looking for, and I would 100% support that, to have some kind of a preemptive, or let's be proactive about this. My opinion on this is, I agree with you, Kevin. There's a lot of good things and bad things about this. Particularly the bad things are, as you said, increased densification, removing the parking off the street. But I do like the concept of providing, or forcing LLCs and basically commercial developers from being exempt, not letting them be exempt from the discount fees. I think that's silly. That's appropriate for homeowners and individuals like myself or you, but not for a corporation to turn a residential neighborhood into an apartment building. So what I would like to do is support a vote or a motion to explore this further if needed, or at least have an understanding where the board stands in this, so we can be proactive when it comes to this, comes to the point where we have to make a decision or recommendation to the city.
Thank you, Anthony. Chris?
Yeah, and I want to lead off by thanking Kevin too for just bringing the awareness to this board about these issues, as I had not heard about this memo. I'm reviewing the memo, Kevin, that you circulated to the board, and we should probably share that in the chat for anybody who hasn't had a chance to look at it. But personally, I don't see anything in the memo that's robust enough for this board to take action on tonight. I think it's a good opportunity for us to, become aware of the proposal at hand. For me, the main thing is, as you called out, so the AMI reduction. Otherwise, there's some sort of camouflaging with replacement of trees and those types of things, which the current ordinance already requires. So for me, I think that the best we could hope for is, we bring this back to the board for a formal position once we've all had a chance to do a little bit more, maybe research and have a thorough discussion about it. But I would start with the memo that the council member is proposing.
Thank you, Chris. I see Tracy's hand up.
Yeah, so the Neighbors for a Better San Diego, I've seen their presentation twice now, and one of the drawings that the guy showed was frightening and appalling for all of the rules that are going away. He basically showed how many units could be built on a single family lot, and it really freaked me out. Like, I'm all for, building more housing because we desperately need it, but what he showed was just like insane. So if anything, tonight, I would actually support I would like to support their idea of putting a moratorium on any further voting, and I wouldn't mind getting them in to give a presentation and actually discuss with us. And then, I mean, if we could get Councilmember El Rivera in here too to discuss his ideas for change, that would be really helpful, I believe, to the community. I know that he's not our council member, but he has some really great ideas, and I think it would be really great to just hear differing opinions that, aren't just ours, our little OB vacuum.
Thank you. Mandy, did you want to speak on this item?
I was just going to say what Tracy had mentioned, and I do have their contact information. I can provide that to you, Andrea, if you'd like to reach out to that organization, because the board did find that their presentation was very helpful in explaining the ordinance that San Diego is proposing that differs from the state, and the concerns that the impacts that it's going to have to the communities, not just with regards to parking, but some of the environmental concerns. How is the city going to meet their climate action goals if, the floor to area ratio or the setbacks are so close? I believe they were looking at 4-foot setbacks as a proposal in between properties. How are you going to get tree canopy with that type of easement? And so there was concerns about that, but I would highly recommend. I think they're a great organization. They were very informative and really helped educate our board on the ordinance. So I hope you guys bring them before your board before you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and just a reminder to the board, just because something is an action item does not mean we have to take action on it. It is just allowing us the possibility to take an action if we did want to see it. If the request is for me to reach out to Neighbors and as well as Sean, hopefully Sean can stop by, or maybe he'll send a policy staff that's working on the ordinance. I think that would be equally good. Yeah. I did corner him the other day at a press conference and try to convince him about a street vending ordinance. So policy staff is probably what we're going to get. But I will, of course, reach out and see if we can get them both at the same time. Yeah, Tracy?
Is it possible that we could get, and I know I hate to be this person, but is it possible that we could get somebody on the pro side for this as well? I mean, just, hearing the same negative,
Yeah,
negative,
Sean's
negative all the
staff,
time is not, yeah.
yeah, Sean's staff would be the pro side, and then the neighbors. I agree. That's why I was kind of hesitant to reach out to the neighbors group in the first place, to kind of without reaching out to others.
Well, sorry, Andre, just to jump in, I think Sean is pro, but he's obviously the one proposing these revisions. So I think somebody from the city would be more appropriate. The ordinance as it's proposed right now without Sean's reductions to it, I think is what's important to have in the room as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean is kind of, I would say he's 3/4 pro, but he's back a little bit with city stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I will reach out to city staff. I don't know who it'd be, but I will reach out to Wally, chair of CPC, and he might be able to point me in the right direction. So are we not taking action on this item?
Table.
Tabled. Okay, we can wrap it up. Good, because
Motion to table until we can get additional information. How about that?
Did you guys see the
I
screenshot?
see George. Okay, I see George is the second, and I'll just do it. We'll pass it. Any objections? Sorry, unless there are objections. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. So I do have a few chair announcements. Number one, the volleyball dedicated sign to I think his name is Mouse. George Stephanopoulos has gone up officially. So if you want to go see it, it was another great, community sponsored thing that we could help them push through. So getting things done. It's always good to go and look at something we've actually accomplished to remind ourselves that we aren't just speaking into a void. Number two, the district mapping for the redistricting is up. I will put that in the chat right now. Please, everyone, go and fill out a map. Or else they might redistrict us with La Jolla, and there will only be one seat for the coastal districts on the city council. And I know we don't want that to happen because we already feel like, the coastal districts aren't represented enough. So please, please, please go and fill out a map. These are due, I think, in a week and a half. So maybe if you have some time on Saturday and Sunday and want to do that. Number two, pier repairs are going to begin soon. On pylon 60 and pylon 61, they're going to do a rebar wrap around it, so it'll at least survive through the winter storms, and we can maybe even see a full reopening, but we certainly won't see the pier crashing into the ocean. The pier working group is continuing to work with the city to make sure that 8.4 million from the state is spent on engineering and moving the pier forward for a rebuild. From what the mayor's office is telling us and from what Council President Campbell's office is telling us, that is the discussion we're having. We're not discussing kind of any teardowns, that we're totally focused on rebuilding and making sure that money, like we requested, goes towards those efforts. So hopefully we'll start having conversations soon about what we want to see on the pier. Then I'm just going to transition really quickly to the treasurer's report because Craig did sign it and he apologizes. But Julie apparently has him on, here's the treasurer's report, on some kind of
On a leash.
Yeah, well, I was going to say social obligational duty. All right, so in the treasurer, the bank balance, we have $1,349.21. Yeah, that's it. So we're in good standing with the treasurer's office. Does anyone else have any committee reports or community reports that they want to share?
I do.
Was that Nicole? Okay.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sending my video now. Yes. I have an update from the Ocean Beach Veterans Plaza Steering Committee. We will have a booth on site during Oktoberfest on Saturday, this Saturday. So if anyone has any questions about the newly redesigned Veterans Plaza project, please come down and talk to us on Saturday. We'll be there all day.
Thank you. Do I have any other reports, Tracy?
There isn't a month that's going to go by that I don't have anything really cool to talk about with the commission. But first off, I just want to let everybody know, anybody who's interested, the funding applications or the applications for signing up to potentially get funding are available right now. So if anybody wants to try to get organizational support or community, creative community San Diego support, now would be a good time to go to the commission's website and check those out and start applying. But the most exciting thing is that last month, the city council actually unanimously passed a bunch of proposed changes to the TOT policy 100-03 that dictates how the commission funding is allocated. And some of those key changes that are going to be reflected in the fiscal year 23 funding application guidelines were, we are going to add 2 additional funding opportunities. One is called City Artist, which is going to be for individual artists or artist groups. And then another one is going to be called Impact, which would be funding for targeted initiatives. And then we are also changing the track record requirement period from 3 years to 2 years to expand the participant panel or the pool. We are also changing the reimbursement process, which is really big, from a receipt and then give money, or like all of these people in the past have had to submit receipts to get money, and now we're reversing it. We're actually going to give them money and then they can give us receipts. And that really opens up a lot of opportunity for the groups that really don't have the funding. You know, now we're actually giving out money and not saying, oh, you know, you have to spend it before you can get it, which is great. Because like I said, a lot of these groups don't even have money to spend. We are also defining the eligibility to support activities and organizations which are located within the city of San Diego boundaries. In the past, we were also giving funding to county, but county organizations are now going to be covered by hopefully something that Supervisor Fletcher is working on right now, an organization or commission for county groups. And then there's also been some really exciting changes, like way more staff assistance for applicants, way more workshops to walk through the application process, opening up the fiscal sponsorship program. And one of the biggest deals for some of these small groups is eliminating the insurance requirement for applicants. So we are really, really trying to level the playing field for the big groups who always get funding and always have money and always can do certain things. And we're trying to get more money out to the smaller groups. So again, the fiscal year 22 RFQ guidelines are available through October 31st, and I will post the link to get more information in the chat.
Thank you. I was thrilled to hear and read about the upfront payments. I think that'll really make an impact to a lot of artists, especially
huge.
Ones
Yeah,
that don't have.
It's huge.
Awesome. Okay, I saw Anthony's hand up, and then I see Kevin's hand up, and Mandy.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I just wanted everybody to know, 2 weeks from tonight at 4 p.m., the Airport Noise Committee meets again virtually. If anybody wants to attend, listen in, have concerns, do a public comment, let me know. I'll hook you up.
Thank you, Kevin.
Be a project review committee in a few weeks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mandy.
Hello again. I am a member of the Peninsula Community Planning Board, and we did recently establish 2 high school student liaison positions. I just wanted to report that we have received 3 high school applicants that will be coming before the Environmental Subcommittee on Wednesday, the 13th of October, to come and present and introduce themselves to the community. We wanted to ensure fairness, so all applicants will be having their names drawn. Whoever is the lucky recipient and gets their name drawn from the hat will become our latest and greatest members of the Peninsula Community Planning Board. So I'm really excited about this pilot program. if you or any of your other board members are interested in how we established it or would like to establish something similar with your board, I would appreciate just reach out to me and let me know if that's something you would like to do. And then the second thing I wanted to touch base with was with regard to the Cannon Street Pocket Park. The board voted unanimously on September 16th to ask the mayor's office to grandfather the pocket park under the old rules, to find the funds to fill the gap and devote staff resources to get the park built, and 3, identify how much money was spent and what money remains for the project, given a lack of transparency by the city. This has been a park project that has been spearheaded by a fellow board member, Don Severance, for several years, and there's been several community stakeholders that have advocated for this park. And with the recent changes to the park master plan, the concern is that our community would not be eligible to find funding, or it wouldn't apply to the current point system that the city recently adopted. And so due to the amount of effort that several community stakeholders have made, as well as the board has advocated for this park, we're just wanting to see if there's some other ways that we can fill the gaps with funding, as well as find out where the city is with regards to the balance, because we're not really clear on how much money is on the ledger. The concern is that the city is going to nickel and dime the account for consultant fees, but in good faith, the concern is that we can't go out and advocate for funding, the funding gaps, if we don't know how much we have in the first place. And so there hasn't been very clear communication from our council member. And so the letter was sent to the mayor as well as our council member to request an update on that status. I felt like this was a strong and articulate letter, and I'm very grateful that the board made that position. So once I do have an update on that, I will provide that update to your board as well. So that's all I have. Our next meeting for the main board will be on Thursday, the 21st of October, every third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m.
Thanks,
Thank
Mandy.
you. Have a great night.
Update, yeah, on what's going on over the hill. Chris, I see your hand up.
Yep, just really quickly merging the worlds of Tracy and Anthony, so arts and airport. And by the way, the updates that Tracy just gave, those are huge updates, years in the making. So being really familiar with the city's granting process, those are some huge changes. So kudos there, Tracy. And the county arts agency would be a great benefit to our region as well if that moves forward through the supervisor's office. For the airport, though, we've got a newly installed exhibition program. So anybody who does find themselves at the airport, we've got a brand new exhibition throughout the campus, 16 sites of all local artists' artwork displayed throughout Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. So keep your eyes open when you travel through the terminal. It'll be on display for another year. And then secondly, we are in the process this week of installing a new mural, a 160-foot long mural on the Admiral Bowen Way roadway, which if you've ever rented a car from the rental car center and driven to the terminal, there's a road that connects those two facilities, and there's a sizable mural over there that we are installing the work of bi-regional artist Belize Aristay. She lives San Diego and Tijuana, so really cool thing that should be completed by Friday as well. So I just wanted to bring the awareness to those great arts happenings. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have any other further reports? Okay. Well, thank you guys. And like I said, you know, I'll keep my eyes on the cases too. And if anyone does have concerns about the library meeting being in person, please feel free to email me. But I really do think it'll just be a better meeting if we do have it in person. But I'm always open to listen to y'all. Until next time, I also wouldn't mind seeing you guys in person. Obviously, no hugging would be involved, but it's been a while. Yeah, so have a great rest of your evening. I'm glad I got us out with a few more innings left of the wild card game. I'm going to go turn it on. Have a great night. Go Cards.